Hi, this is Kara. Welcome to Breaking Free Fridays, or welcome back if you've been following the series. Well, this is Saturday edition. As you may have noticed, I missed the last couple of Breaking Free actual Friday episodes. As life sometimes does, it had other plans, and I just didn't want to wait another week to connect with you and share something that has come up that I just thought would be really helpful, especially this time of year. So I wanted to talk to you about how to not just give, but to also receive. So many of us are just inherently givers. And it happens with such ease and flow, and we've been doing that for our whole lives, and it just feels natural. And yet oftentimes we can get into these patterns where we give so much that we end up feeling really depleted. And in those instances, we actually can become resentful, in fact, even though we're the ones that are doing the giving. And so, one of the things that's really interesting about this time of year, and part of the reason this topic also came up is, with the holiday season and just this beauty of this time of year, there's so much in the way of giving and receiving around love and connection. And it can also be a time of overwhelm and stress, and really feeling like we have to be on all the time. Lots of activity, connection, maybe even with relationships and family settings where dynamics aren't always as healthy and functional as we might really like for them to be. And so there can sometimes be a strain in that. And we, at the same time, we really want to make the most of our time, of our lives, of every moment, and making every moment count, and really, connecting to that deep sense of gratitude and love. And a lot of that has to do with our ability to receive. And so I want to go a little bit deeper into that, and where deep blocks can show up connected to that sense of receiving, that ability to receive. It's a little bit ability as well as some, skill and strengthening of a muscle, if you will. But first, one of the important things to dive into is just understanding that there can be a lot of confusion in our world around love versus attachment. And oftentimes we confuse attachment for love. And what we think is love is actually attachment. So when you connect to the concept of love, this is one of the highest frequencies of energy. I mean, imagine the feeling of the sun illuminating, and that sense of wonder and peace, pure connection, that deepest piece of life force that just feels so in sync, so beautiful, so safe. It's about choice. It's about freedom. It's unconditional. And then on the other hand, with attachment, that is really based in condition. It also has a lot of aspects connected to fear of loss. Attachment is usually around trying to find security outside of ourselves. It's like trying to fill a hole within ourselves from some external source, as opposed to, having that wholeness being present from within us, that full integration from within us. And what gets a little bit tricky is love and connection is a basic human need. And so when we find ourselves in a place where those get confused, it creates an interesting dynamic. So in that case, with attachment, receiving actually can feel dangerous. And in that realm, we can easily block our ability to receive. And this can affect, all areas of our life, in terms of our ability to create and manifest the life of our dreams, of so many different possibilities, and incredible things that exist. There are aspects of ourselves, we've talked about in other videos too, that are just connected to the way our primal brain works. Some of the functionings in our ego, our autonomic nervous system, if it's dysregulated, where we just are automatically, that survival mode is taking priority. And so we definitely want to explore this piece so that we allow ourselves to receive the maximum amount of goodness, of incredible beauty and love and abundance, and all of the amazing things, right? So one of the things that was kind of the impetus behind this, not only just this time of year in general, but I realized even in my own journey, I spent years working on relationship with self and self-love, doing all sorts of shadow work and reparenting my inner child, different self-love rituals, self-care, really getting to a place where I felt very, very solid in my love and relationship experience of love with source, with God, the divine, however that concept resonates for you, and also within myself. And yet I found myself kind of sitting with this, almost like this unease, where I felt a little bit of a sense of feeling stuck, where I just had all this great, growth and momentum, and, these different things to celebrate. And yet there was something that just felt like it was just holding me back a bit. And so in doing some healing work and really exploring this sense of giving and receiving, I uncovered an interesting experience where I was actually feeling this sense of giving unconditional love to my children, which is so easy. That comes very natural. And yet, as I was going into the experience of receiving unconditional love from them, I felt myself blocking it. And this was not conscious. This was something that really came forward, where I saw it, almost like a wall, and felt it as really just this sense of, okay, love is not safe to receive. That was the message that came to me, intuitively. And how interesting, because I definitely experience love for my children all the time. And so this is something that was at a very deep layer, that was exciting to get to, because, with each of these pieces, there are breakthroughs that can be incredibly profound and important. But it was almost a sense of like armoring, a little bit that was happening too. And so what I realized is that there was yet one of those aspects of my wounding deep within, that was connected to some of my formative relationships, and also to other really important, significant relationships in life, where I had experienced that love wasn't safe. There were actual experiences of that. And so something in my, deep within, and also this doesn't have to necessarily just be our own individual experiences. Oftentimes these things pattern down familially. There can be multi-generational trauma that contributes, that can have some of these underlying wounds that re-experience and show up in a way that that we get an invitation to resolve and have these breakthroughs. So it was really profound seeing that and experiencing that, and really getting that breakthrough to allow myself to receive the unconditional love, to work through that block. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with you, which is a really powerful inquiry that you can do. And, this is one of those things that you can actually journal, or, you can just sit with this. But it's important to go into a place where you feel really centered. A hand on heart is really powerful. Taking a few deep breaths to just really, ground yourself and connect into that inner place, that true sense of yourself. And just ask, what is my deepest belief about receiving love? And sit with that. What is my deepest belief about receiving love? Does it feel safe? Does receiving love feel safe? And just with curious awareness, leave the judgment go, let fear just release and dissolve. And just with curiosity, notice what comes up for you. There might be a memory, you could have a feeling come up. And just notice what that is. Really just sit with that. Be gentle with yourself. And just explore that for a moment, just in the sense of being and connecting with what's coming up for you. Remember, no judgment. And if you just keep taking a few deep breaths to help clear and really maintain that centeredness. And realize that this awareness is such a bright light, because it's in that you're able to bring light to the block and to help just dissolve that through compassion with yourself, compassion and gentleness. And allow yourself a moment to take that in. This is something that can be a powerful practice that you can do over and over, just dissolving this block more and more. Keep in mind that most people, at some level, our fears are driven by a fear of not being good enough, or a fear of not being enough. And behind that is usually a fear of not being worthy of love. And we innocently make these judgments against ourselves when we're young children. And, something that we experience in our life is so overwhelming to our system that because of the developmental stage that we are in, we innocently make these judgments about ourselves. And so remind yourself and take this in, hear my voice in this. You are so worthy of love. You deserve love. You are love. Breathe that in. Feel the truth of that in the essence of your being, in the true essence of who you are. You deserve love. You are worthy of love just because of who you are, just for being, not because of anything you say or don't say, anything you do or don't do. You are love. Magnificent, beautiful, radiant love. Just breathe that in. Allow yourself to receive that. And take a few deep breaths. Just really bringing that into your heart. And what's coming up for you? I'd love to hear in the comments. If you're before I close out, if you're loving these videos, please share them with your friends and loved ones. Subscribe, send a like. And just, as we close out, one of the things that I wanted to remind in this container where we're really sitting with love and releasing blocks to receiving and blocks to love, in fact. One of the things that's so magical about this time of year, in addition to the holidays, in addition to the celebration that brings, the honoring of, very important aspects in, different spiritual traditions and beliefs, different areas of religion. One of the big things, if you connect to nature too, and you think about, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in winter, and the trees, they may not have leaves anymore, but their roots are deepening. And it's the same. This time of year is such an important time for reflection, going inward, allowing ourselves to really connect to those deep parts of ourselves, to integrate, to allow for new levels of wholeness to come upon us. Tomorrow is the solstice, and that's such a magical time, and also in connection to what we're talking about with nature, and just that point of reflection and really allowing ourselves restoration, rejuvenation, that connection within, that ability from doing so. That's what allows us to flourish and grow and integrate even further. It's like that preparation work for another layer of beautiful expansion. So give yourself that space and that gift. That's also a part of what is so beautiful about receiving. So I definitely invite you to really enjoy that and to take that in. That's another area that can be so powerful for journaling and even in your own meditative state, to just to really dialogue with yourself and reflect on what you need, and that piece of receiving. Remember, a lot of that can be practiced with ourselves. Oftentimes we deny ourselves of that self-care, of that self-nurturing. And you can take baby steps with this and build that muscle, if you will, that strength of that aspect of the giving and receiving. Remember, everything is energy, and there's always an exchange and a flow. And so we want that to be in balance. And as we're balancing that, and that's part of these seasons, part of the cycle. So where we go deeper within, we can flourish more in our expansion. And so I am just, holding that space and wishing that for you, that greater level of receiving, that greater level of love in your life, the love that is that pure unconditional love, the love that connects all of us at a very deep level in the core essence of who we are. And I'm wishing you a beautiful holiday season, a wonderful next week. Here is to your next level of empowerment and breaking free. Sending you so much love and a lot of gratitude. Bye for now.